So if you've spent any time in the book of Acts, you'll know that it seems to have a really interesting story. It's written by the same guy who wrote the book of Luke, and it really does pick up where the book of Luke left off, talking about the Great Commission, following the apostles after Jesus' ascent, and really sticking with this one guy named Paul, you might have heard of him, as he preaches the gospel to the Gentiles. But then it suddenly cuts off, which leaves you wondering, what happened? There are a few different theories on this, but generally speaking, regardless of what your theory states, most people just agree that Luke stopped the story where he did because that was as far as history knew when he was writing it. Either he wrote it up to the point where Paul had finally gotten to speak to the Roman Council, because at the time that had just happened, and Luke then had to send off his letter, so he couldn't finish it. Or perhaps if Luke was receiving any sort of secondhand knowledge, which seems unlikely given that Luke seems to insert himself in the story up to the point of the Roman Council, simply by announcing his presence, saying, "And then we traveled here, and then we did this." It is possible, though unlikely, that he may have been pulling some information from secondhand sources and just never got word of anything else happening. But one view that I did want to highlight that I had heard recently from a new study Bible I'd been reading, the Quest Study Bible, if you want to know which one it is. I am enjoying it so far, but I'm not sure if I'm at the point where I would recommend it. Their interpretation of this is that Luke is writing a biography about the movement of the Holy Spirit, and that part of the reason that it cuts off at this pivotal point is because the movement of the Holy Spirit is more or less complete. In fact, the final lines of the book of Acts state that Paul continued to live on and preach the gospel with boldness and without hindrance. If we take that to then mean that the Holy Spirit proceeded through Paul to continue onward beyond this moment, then it would make sense as to why Acts would end at such a climactic point, effectively putting the period on the end of the sentence for the gospel to spread around the world. However, I think it's quite possible that Luke just ran out of things to write about at the time. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this particular idea, whether or not you think it's an autobiography of the Holy Spirit or that Luke was just writing up to current events. But anyway, take care, and I'll see you tomorrow.